This is Sex Love Psychedelics, and I'm your host, Dr. Kat, bringing you psychosexual conversations that will leave you intellectually turned on and hungry for more.
I guess, even before we get into that, what is microdosing? For those people who haven't realized how in vogue and trendy it is.
Microdosing. So I'll give a little context and background that'll help to set the scene. I did a lot of acid when I was 19 and 20, sophomore, junior, senior year of university, higher doses, not necessarily microdoses. And what I noticed is after those high dose LSD experiences for like a week or 2 weeks after, I had this beautiful afterglow, this sort of halo effect of working with LSD where, meditating was second nature. I made a lot of really good choices and decisions about diet, exercise, sleep. I was more connected, more present, more vulnerable with friends and family. And then inevitably, 2 or 3 or 4 weeks after, a lot of that would sort of dissipate. And I would notice some changes, but I also noticed that I'd start to fall back into some maybe old patterns and old ways. So in 2015, I was living in Chiang Mai, Thailand. I was building my first business, which was a teaching English business, and listening to a podcast. And microdosing came up as a topic. And I was like, that's interesting. I thought back to these early LSD experiences. And, the reflection was, I wonder if microdosing could elongate that halo effect or that afterglow effect. So it's not just 2 or 3 weeks, but it's actually a month or 2 months or 3 months or 6 months. In other words, this window of neuroplasticity stays open for a lot longer. And the key with microdosing is, unlike these high doses of LSD or high doses of psilocybin, it's what's called, and what I'm sort of reorienting around, is a sub-intoxicating dose of a psychedelic. So the initial term that was used to describe microdosing, which some of your listeners may be familiar with, is subperceptual. And what ended up happening is a lot of people were confused about, am I microdosing? Am I not microdosing? Is it perceptual? Can I feel it a little bit? So there was a lot of sort of mind being hung up on the subjective effects. And I think the best way to land it is a microdose is a dose that is subintoxicating, a dose that you can still navigate everyday reality while you're under, but is not necessarily going to put you into visuals, significant emotional catharsis. You can still kind of do your thing on a day-to-day basis. And so when we look at how much then, how much is a microdose, it's about a tenth of a regular dose. So anywhere from 5 to 30 micrograms of LSD, or anywhere from 50 to maybe 300, 400 milligrams of psilocybin. And the reason that range is so big is because every individual has a different tolerance or a different sensitivity to these psychedelic medicines. And so a lot of what we teach through Third Wave, a lot of what I outlined even in this book, Mastering Microdosing, that was recently published, is to start low, go slow, that this is a very personal experience, and that calibration, right, specific to the individual is really key. You can always take more. You can't necessarily take less. And especially for those who are relatively new to psychedelics, or are looking just to sort of wade in and get their feet wet, microdosing is a phenomenal way to start to engage with the substances. One other point, a great way to land it is, microdosing is not just taking a low dose once, but it really is about a protocol, right? So when we're talking about microdosing, we're really looking at, how do we take a sub-intoxicating psychedelic 2 to 3 times per week with a clear intention and a commitment to doing that for 30 to 60 days. So the parallel that I often draw, or the comparison, is like meditation. You don't sit down on the cushion, meditate for 15 minutes and expect for your life to be transformed. It takes showing up consistently every day for you really to see the tangible benefits of meditation. And microdosing is much the same. It's really committing to that process of 2 to 3 times a week, for 30 to 60 to 90 days, having a clear core intention, and not looking at microdosing as a magic pill, but really looking at microdosing as a catalyst for neuroplasticity that will simply help you to weave in new behaviors, that will help you to be more connected, more open, that may help with your overall mood and energy. That's another really important part to emphasize.
Well, that was fun. Thanks for tuning in, lovers. And if you want to experience more ecstasy and sexual liberation, head over to sexlovepsychedelics.com and learn about how you can join me for any one of my online or live events. And while you're there, grab my free guide on sex and psychedelics. Remember, this podcast is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Please contact your healthcare provider and local law before pursuing any of the products or psychedelics discussed. And one final note here. I make this show specifically for you. If you're loving the show, then be sure to leave me a review in iTunes or Spotify to let me know. Happy to be here and happy to serve. I'll see you next time on Sex Love Psychedelics.